tip.
Yeah, but then I lose my little live bit here.
No, I know, and I like it, and it's kind of the same each week, but always different.
Bow, 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 bow. Featured presentation. Is that how it goes?
No. Hey guys, welcome to another fantastic, rip-roaring, action-packed, whatever other really cool adjective you can come up with episode of the Church Media Guy Shows. My name's Dave Curley, and if we've not met before, I'm the founder of Church Training Academy, which is a place where you and I and a whole bunch of other church creatives and church marketers and ministers and ministry-minded people all come together and learn how to use and exploit media and technology so that we can take the gospel to the world everywhere, no matter whether it's right outside the door of our church or whether it's across the world. That's what we learn how to do here. With me, as always, is my extremely brilliant, extremely good-looking, and extremely talented co-host and partner, Mr. Justin Nava. Good morning, sir.
What's going on, everyone? I'm super excited for the show, and we got to get it over pretty quickly because, as you can see, I've got Thanos here over my shoulder coming to get me. And if I know anything, it's gonna take a while to fight him off. So we got to get started. And I'm excited. This is gonna be a good show. It's gonna answer a lot of questions that I have for my own church. And I'm gonna be that quiet, supportive guy, and gonna run the show here because this is all about what Dave knows and what I need to know. So I'm excited to learn.
And now for our feature presentation.
So, Dave, for today's show, I need you to help me. And I think when you help me, you're going to end up helping the hundreds of people that are going to eventually see this. Because here's my predicament. We've kind of, from my understanding, is we've hit a roof with our equipment.
Okay.
You know, we have the camera. Mm-hmm. We have most of the time a camera operator. Mm-hmm. We have our tripod. We have our video box encoder. As you can tell, I don't run the live stream. I just kind of help when I can.
Sure.
And we have our computer. Okay. We have a decent light set up in our sanctuary. I feel like we've done all we can. And if I really wanted to upgrade our stream, I'm looking at about $5,000 to $10,000 to really upgrade to like an automatic camera that scans.
Yeah.
More advanced settings, more audio stuff. So the predicament I'm in is, of course, we don't have 5,000 to 10,000, but we've kind of hit a level of what we're just doing right off the bat.
Sure.
So I'm hoping you can give me, maybe 3, 4, 5, if you can even pull it off.
Okay.
5 tips to get better quality from the gear I already have, because here's the deal. I cannot bust my budget.
Right.
And, so do you have anything prepared, or are you just going to go off the cuff here?
Amazingly, I have... Hang on, I'm building it in my head. 5 tips that you can use to increase your video quality without having to spend a whole lot of money. Okay,
I love it. This is kismet. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I don't know. It's who'da thunk that you would have this need, and I'm guessing by a lot of the live streams and videos I've seen, other people have this need as well. That I would just happen to have a list like that.
And in case anyone's thinking, we definitely don't get questions from our audience and then look for patterns of questions that people keep asking and answer those things. That would make too much sense. No, I'm totally kidding. The facade is up. I'm giving it up.
Yes.
When you join Church Media Hacks, it is available to join. But one of the things you have to do is answer a simple question. What's your number one burning question? And something we keep hearing over and over again is, how do I get better quality from the stuff I already have?
Right.
Because eventually we do want to buy better gear, but we're just not at that point. So a lot of times you have stuff that's given to you. Maybe someone donates a camera, maybe someone donates some equipment, and you know it works, and maybe it can work better. And so that's kind of what we're talking about today. I actually watched a YouTube video of a pitching coach, and what he was talking about is everyone can pitch a baseball, right? Some people can throw harder than others, mm-hmm. and there's some things you can do to train it. So even though you start here, your potential is actually up here. And so, a pitching coach takes you from here to here. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, Dave, right? Is you have kind of this window of potential. And so Dave's going to show you how to take your live streaming or video gear and quality from here to get it all the way up to the max. And if you're listening to the audio, how dare you only listen to half of the media we're putting out? But I'm basically saying, there's a window and you may be at the bottom, but there is a way to get you to the top. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. One of the
if you're listening to the audio, I love you.
Yes, we do love you.
Listen to it too.
Yeah, ctapodcast.com, by the way. Okay, so one of the things that I have always tried to do, because budget is always a concern. I mean, it's a concern for me as a video producer and having my own little production company and stuff. I can't just go out dropping money all the time. And because clients don't always have huge budgets, I need to work within that budget. So, sometimes doing something that fits within a client's budget is going to serve more to like pay my bills as opposed to pay my bills and increase, my pool of resources for the next project. So regardless of what your budget's like or whatever, I always tell people try to maximize what you have first. Okay. So use it. I mean, push it until it explodes. Okay. Don't obviously, we're not telling you to make your stuff explode. Okay. But what I'm saying is push it until it's no good. The camera I use at our church for our wide shot is a camera that I have had for over 10 years. And until, the chips melt, I'm going to keep using it in one way or another. Now, one of the things, the first tip that I have, I see a lot of videos, people's live streams, different churches' live streams, videos that are shot, for promos or meet the pastor or whatever. One of the things that I notice is a lot of people don't quite understand framing and they don't understand image composition. What that is how you are fitting the content that you want inside the, there we go, inside the frame of the shot. Okay. For example, you're looking at me on a 16:9 shot here, and I am centered in the image. Okay. So I'm centered in the image. I'm framed good. Okay. Now, if I'm like this, I ain't framed good. I look like I'm sitting at the adult table for the first time. Okay. Someone please pass me the gravy. Okay. If I'm like this, I'm not framed right. The only way in this shot that I am framed right is if I am showing you something over here, and this is what I want you to see. Do you understand what I'm saying here? That is framing. I'm going to use an example, show you an example from a church I found. So this one right here, not framed so good, okay? This one right here, framed good, but not composed really well. See, this is like really far back, okay? We can't see any real definition. The area of interest is like, the area of interest is like right here when it's all said and done, okay? So there's no need for us to really be paying attention to all this extraneous noise right here, okay? Now, I've seen a lot of churches that this shot is the shot that they're using for their live stream and for recording their services. I understand the idea behind it. We only have one camera. However, this shot is much more interesting to look at. And why is that? Because the area of interest, the area that we want people to pay attention to, is these people singing, okay? The choir we can hear in the background. It's not really important that we see them until they are being featured, okay? The band over here and the band over here, we can hear them in the music. It doesn't matter that we see them until the time comes for something to happen with them, like it's just the pianist playing a song, in which case we move the camera and zoom over here to where she is because she's the area of interest, okay? You can do this creatively, and you can do it when you are live streaming. If you have a much higher quality camera, okay? Now, this camera back here, like I said, it's 10 years old. A much higher quality camera will allow you basically to set this as one image or one shot, and then you can duplicate it and make another shot that's like this, where you're kind of digitally zooming in your broadcast software, and effectively have two shots from the same one. Okay, so framing, that is one of the biggest things. If you pay attention to your framing, and I always tell people, look at what you see on TV. Okay, if it's working on TV, and I'm not talking about crappy reality shows or YouTube and stuff like that. I'm talking about actual proper produced television. Go watch a service, Joel Osteen service. I don't care. You know, Swindoll. I mean, somebody. Okay, Charles Stanley. Watch one of their services, get an idea for how they're doing and what it looks like, and make that happen with your camera. Okay, that is one tip, and it's. Do you have a question
geez,
about
Dave,
that?
if you needed an example of a bad framing job, I would have just said, "Hey, go get our live stream." One of the hard things we have is that we don't have a consistent camera operator.
Right.
So the camera is kind of set and forget. So we're working on that.
Sure.
But that is one thing. So tell me if this goes into step 2, and if not, we'll answer it after the show.
Okay.
Tommy said he does have an older camera.
Yes.
That for the wide shot, it is an SD, but it's shooting 4:3, which of course messes. It doesn't look the same as his.
Right.
I guess his push shot camera that does 16:9.
Right.
So I know. In step 2 here, we're getting into what if we have a lower end HD camera or an older SD camera? How can we make better quality with that without buying a whole new camera?
One of the things that I tell people to do is, because you can stream at 1080 doesn't mean you have to stream at 1080. Okay, so if you can record at that, great. Like natively on the camera or something, that's fine. But you don't have to stream at 1080. You don't have to stream at 720. Okay. Obviously, the higher the quality of the data coming down the stream that you can get, the better. Obviously, right? A little trick that I learned over the years is if I got a camera that is, say, a lower end high def camera. Okay, it's not perfect. It doesn't have multiple sensors. It has one sensor in there. And when I say multiple sensors, that's just, a sensor for red, a sensor for green, a sensor for blue. Okay, higher end cameras have that. Lower end cameras have one sensor, like a point and shoot camera. Okay, and so that one sensor handles and splits the red, green, and blue. The quality can look okay. We have inexpensive cameras that look fine, okay? But when you compare it to a higher end camera, it looks dramatically different, okay? Anyway, all that aside, lower end camera. If you have a high def 1080 signal coming into, say you're using OBS, you can actually set the OBS palette, the canvas, to be, say, 720p, okay? And then when you're streaming it, you can stream 720p, okay? So you're taking a high def signal, okay, and you're shrinking it down, okay? By virtue of shrinking down that signal, you are sharpening it, okay? Believe it or not. You're sharpening it a little bit. Everything's getting a little closer together, looking a little crisper, okay? There's actually sharpening filters or different types of scaling filters that you can do that will actually sharpen and make it look even better and stuff. What you're doing is you're taking something really big that looks okay and making it a little smaller, and it looks really good. Okay, think of it when you just do a search on Google for any kind of an image, and when you see an image that is say 640 by 360 or something, kind of a small smallish image, okay? When you look at it at that distance, it looks fine. If you try to zoom in on it and blow it up, it looks kind of goopy, okay? So that's kind of the idea in reverse. It looks okay, but it gets better looking when it's smaller. Now, when you're doing that at 720, if you can also increase the bit rate that you're going up, so if you're going up at 1 megabit, will your up speed in your thing allow you to send 2 or 1.5 megabits? If it does, increase that, okay? So you're sending smaller, sharper at a higher bit rate, okay? Getting more video information up the stream, giving Facebook more information, more data, video data to send, okay? Versus sending a smaller pipe, okay, say 1 megabit at a bigger size, okay? So smaller size, bigger pipe to send it through versus large size and smaller pipe to send it through, okay? I got to figure out a way to physically illustrate that for you guys a little bit better, but I hope you understand that concept. Do you understand it?
Yeah, that was a little bit above my head.
I know.
To be honest.
I know.
And if anyone has been listening to this for any time, I'm not a techie guy. This goes over my head. I use technology. I work in IT. But when you start to get to a lot of the AV stuff, goes over my head.
You know,
So
if you think of it like a water hose,
concept.
think of it like a water hose, like your garden hose. You turn the water on, and the water's going blurp. Okay, it's just kind of going blurpy, blurpy, blurpy. When you stick your finger over it and make the stream smaller, or make the content smaller, it actually comes out faster and can do more stuff. You can get it going a little bit further. Same kind of idea. I know it's hard to explain.
That puts it in. That
Okay.
puts a good illustration.
Okay, good.
That's a good illustration. Yeah,
Awesome.
that makes more sense. Yeah,
Awesome.
the numbers are still going over my head, but
I know.
that's honestly, if I can say this before I have to go, because unfortunately I have to cut out.
Sure,
in the
no
middle of the show. But if I can say this, it's why I'm glad I have you, because I am a by default member of Church Training Academy. So when I do have these questions or I do need some more explanation, I can ask that question in our group and get answers. So that I'm fine with that.
Awesome.
Just knowing the concept and the details I can find out later when I need to. But I got to bounce. So I'm really excited for this next one, though. You talk about framing and then also the audio. I'm going to go ahead and just jump here because the audio is a big thing here for me and for many people, is because what I've noticed is when our audio is on point, we have a longer viewership. We have over 500 minutes of views on Facebook, from just a few handful of people watching. But when we have audio problems, even though the video is working fine and it looks good, if we have audio problems, that number shoots down to only like 100 people actually sat down and watched this. So am I correct in looking at the analytics and saying, wow, the audio is actually more important than the video? Is that right?
It is, and that's going to be let's see, that's going to be step number 4 or tip number 4.
Yeah, I know. I'm jumping ahead here.
No, yes, but it is. It is.
I wanted to share that experience because I think if you have a video that just doesn't have as much viewership as normal, if it's like an outlier, take a look at the audio, because what I've noticed is people will forgive poor video if they can understand it. But you can't get the message if the video is clear and the audio is choppy. So I just want to jump to that right now as I take off, and I'm going to be listening to the live show, is how do we boost the audio so we can keep those people watching and hearing the message?
Yeah, that is a huge concern that I've been producing stuff for a couple of decades now, and I learned that early on, that when Justin said it pretty good. The adage, I guess, the old wives' tale or old adage or whatever you want to call it, is that people will forgive a poor image quality if they can still understand what's going on. So tip number 3 is to make the audio as awesome as possible. Okay, and I can't stress that enough, because I'm trying to think. Should I try to screw up the audio for you and make you feel uncomfortable? I don't think I'm going to do that. But if the pastor has a wireless microphone and there's interference in the room, and so when the pastor is talking, it can't stand him all the time as he's walking around stage. Did you get that? If the audio keeps coming in and out and you can't understand him all the time as the pastor's walking around the stage, then you're not going to get what he's saying. Okay, depending on the types of audio wireless systems that you have, it could be interference, radio interference, interference with your Wi-Fi, stuff like that. You'll know it if like the pastor moves around and you kind of hear this. If you're listening like to the headphones and you kind of hear this kind of sound every now and then, that's telling you, that's just one of the little signs that says, hey, we may need to change our audio channel. That's just one aspect of it. The aspect I want to hit you guys with is the fact that you need to have 2 mixes. Okay, now I said 5 tips for improving the quality without spending a lot of money. Okay, and you can still you're gonna you may have to spend a little bit of money on this, but you don't have to spend a whole lot. Okay, the sound that the guy in the back on the soundboard is mixing, as he's mixing, the mics and the music and the people talking and the CD tracks, all that sort of stuff, promo video that's playing, whatever. He's mixing that for the 150 people in the room, the warm bodies that are in there, the 200 or the 300 people in the room. He's mixing it to account for some of the echo that's bouncing around the room, things like that, okay? So if you're in a room and you have a orchestra section, a brass section, okay, you got 5 trumpets and you got 2 trombones and you've got some French horns and a handful of saxophones and stuff like that, and you're in a room that seats 400 and there's 200 in there, do you need a microphone on the brass section? Maybe just a little bit, okay? Because the trumpets are always going to be loud. Those guys like to, they really like to go. So the guy mixing may be thinking, okay, we hear them really good, so I'm just going to pull them up just a little bit, okay? And the reality is that the microphones that are on the choir are also picking up some of the brass, and the microphone that is like one of the handhelds that one of the people is using, one of the singers is using, is also picking up a little bit of that. You see what I'm saying? So he's back there doing all this stuff, pulling things down, pushing things up, and doing all that so that it sounds good to him in the room and to the people that are all sitting around, okay? When you listen to that on a recording, or when you take a feed from that board and run it into the streaming computer, and that's the sound that you're using, you'll notice that the piano doesn't sound maybe as loud because it's a baby grand and they've got the thing up. So that music is already coming out and some of the microphones are picking it up, but the microphone that's on it is kind of turned down because he's also got to mix all the other stuff in there. So he actually turns down the actual piano volume on the mixer. And then when you're hearing it, you're hearing lots of voice, hardly any brass. You're hearing the guitar guy really loud, and you hardly hear the piano, and you don't hear hardly any drums, or you hear tons of drums. You see what I'm saying? All that's happening. It's not perfect. Now, it's great when it gets to the pastor talking because none of that stuff is going on, and it's just the pastor and the microphone, and he's just walking around. Take your Bibles, and you see what I'm saying? What I tell folks to do, you can increase the quality of the live stream / the recording, okay? If you get another mixer, okay, and it could be like an 8-channel mixer, it could be a 12-channel mixer. You could spend $50, you could spend $30, you could spend $150, you could spend $10,000. You don't have to though. But a nice little Mackie or a Behringer mixer has 12 channels, 16 channels, something like that, couple $100. You can take on your big board. Most of these boards have multiple subgroup outputs, okay? Basically what that is you have the ability on that board to send certain things to the monitors, like on the stage. You can also send that out to other places, like a recorder. So you could take the speaking or the primary vocals, okay? So the primary vocals on a stage setting, pastor, the worship leader, the guest microphone, okay? Take those 3 and put them into a group, okay? Now, the pastor is not going to be speaking when the worship leader is speaking or singing, right? Okay. The pastor is not going, or the worship leader is not going to be singing when someone on the guest microphone is talking. It's not going to sing while the guy's talking or praying or something, okay? So you take those 3 and you put them into one little output. Send that output into your mixer, channel 1. Take the 3 or 4 praise team members, okay? They're already being mixed over here on the board. Take those 4 channels or whatever and send them to another group, okay? And send those out, and that's channel 2. You now have 2 channels on your mixer, one for the main vocals, which is either going to be the pastor, the guest speaker, the guy praying before the offertory or whatever, and the worship leader. Okay, so you bring that up as you have need. Okay, you bring these up. Now if the worship leader's a little loud, you can pull him down a little bit, or maybe push up the vocals and kind of get them mixed up properly. Right? You see where I'm going with this? The guitars and the bass, they're already being mixed over here on the board. Take those, run those out to one channel, and those go in. And so now you can bring up the guitars and kind of mix them in. Okay, the guitar's getting a little loud. I'm going to pull it down Okay, I'm going to push up the vocals a little bit. It's not affecting anything happening for the people in the house. You're just affecting it for the mix. Okay, I've got a handful of drum mics. Okay, those drum mics go into one channel, and then that goes out to you, and it's drums. Brass, woodwinds, choir. Okay, you got those 2 or 3 mics that sort of hang from the ceiling for the choir. Take those, send those out one channel. I can bring the choir up, mix them with the voices. You see what I'm saying? Take those little sub mixes out into another mixer. Now you can control the sound of the recording and the live stream. You mix it to what sounds good in your headphones. Get really good headphones that kind of block out all the other sound. Okay, so you're not getting jacked up by what's going on in the room. Assuming you're in the room. If you're in another room, then it makes it even easier to isolate. Anyway, now you can mix the music properly. So when someone's listening to it, they're not going, I can't hear the music. I hear tons of voices, and I can really hear that one person in the praise team that's like really flat. Well, if you're hearing that one person in the praise team that's really flat, you pull the praise team down a little bit and push up some of the other stuff. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, that's a really simple thing that you can do. It may sound hyper technical, but if you work with your sound guy, he can show you how to do it. It's pretty cool. Now, these 5 tips are just like one little portion of the kind of stuff that we teach in CTA, right, in the Church Training Academy. We give some of this stuff away, like to people for free, because we want you guys to, be as good as you possibly can be and stuff. We go into a lot of depth. In fact, I've got a entire course in there about how to shoot better video, and I talk about white balance and exposure and depth of field and all this kind of stuff in there. In a video series in there. When you're a CTA member, when you're a CTA insider, you get access to that course, as well as Justin's courses that we're putting together on live streaming, editing, photography, social media, all that kind of stuff. All of that is yours forever, as long as we're here and have it up, and as long as you're around. When you're a CTA insider, you get access to all of that stuff, okay? For one low monthly price. So if you are thinking about becoming an insider, have wondered how you can go deeper and learn more, if you want to be a part of a community of folks that are just like you, that are looking to maximize their ministry, looking to take what they have, use it to reach people, then you want to become a CTA insider, and we would love to have you. So go to churchtrainingacademy.com/join, and we've got all the information there. We would love for you to become one. Number 4, one of the things that a lot of people do, and we were talking earlier about the framing and stuff. This is a little bit more onto the pastor side. I was talking kind of in general, okay? This is a little bit more on the pastor side. I see where we have one shot of the pastor, and we just kind of leave it like that. And in this one, I mean, guys, you can see the pastor looks like he's at the grown-up table, okay? We can see all the percussion stuff and the drums and these beautiful guitars. And I mean, I can see these mic stands. I can see the wonderful, Austin stone or whatever this is, river rock or whatever on the wall, the beautiful wood and all this kind of stuff. And there's foot pedals. And way down here in the bottom is the guy I'm trying to pay attention to. Okay? Bad framing. This needs to be moved and tightened up. I tell my camera operator to give me a medium to medium close-up shot of the pastor. I actually tell her, in this case, I want this shot. I want her to basically go to where, upper thigh is, okay, and go from there up, okay? That way, she has to follow him as he's pacing around the stage. However, if you just take a look at this, I mean, here's our image. What do I want you to pay attention to in this image? What am I directing your eye to? It's to him, the guy that's talking. The other stuff in the background is all completely incidental. Is it there? Is it not there? Doesn't matter. It's all, in our case, it's kind of darkened out, right? You're paying attention to him. When you're getting volunteers to run cameras, start with one person and get that person trained and let them do it for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. If it seems like a long time for them to consistently work and all that. The reality is it's 5 times for them to do it. It's not, I do a daily show. I get 5 times by the end of the week to learn how to do something and perfect it, right? We're talking 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out or something. Get your volunteer on that camera and have them do that consistently for a couple of months, okay? They will learn how the pastor, the speaker works. They will learn how people who are publicly speaking works, how a mover works, how a stander works, okay? There's two kinds of people that when they talk. There's the people that stand behind the pulpit and they don't move. Their movement is like this, from one side of the pulpit to the other, looking this way to the people, looking this way to the people. Then there's the people that pace around the stage. When I publicly speak, I am all over that stage. I walk around and talk to the people in this corner. I walk around and I talk to the people in this corner. I'm always moving on that stage. There's the people that, like our pastor, he will roam all around the stage and then come back here for the next scripture or something, and then start moving again, okay? There's some guys that go down onto the floor and out into the audience. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different guys. You need to learn how he does what he does, okay? When you do learn how he does what he does, and you get the rhythm of how that person is moving, you then are able to anticipate. You'll know that when he starts to lean this way, or when he finishes a scripture, he usually looks off to the left first, and then starts moving when he's going to start telling a thing. When you hear him start, in our case, when our pastor starts to do an illustration of some kind, he'll put his hand up like this, and then he'll turn and start to walk. Our camera operator knows that when she sees him start to move his hand up and say, Amanda and I, or the other day that he's getting ready to move, and so she can automatically start to, as soon as he starts to move, she can pull that camera and lead him, okay, and let him and her walk together, and then let him come into the frame fully where he needs to be. That's a whole nother technique, but you can learn that by watching them, okay? And you will learn to do it really, really good if you're zoomed up on him, and you kind of have to, okay? You will learn the art of paying attention to what's going on in that viewfinder and not drifting off as he's just going on and on and on in one of the really long sermons that sometimes they get to. Anyway, zoom in, track your pastor, get in tight, because when people are watching it on a screen, on a phone, they want to see it up close and personal. I mean, our phones are small, all things considered, okay? They're pretty small. They're not like giant movie screens. They're not like the TVs we have in our house. These little things. And if you got a little tiny image, there's nothing for me to see there, okay? So I get the pastor up here where I can see him, and I can pay attention to it, and he'll hold my attention. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let's get down to our fifth one. Our fifth one is technical, really technical, and I'm serious. Two things that folks can do to make things look better. Set the exposure on your cameras to manual, okay? When it's auto exposed, the iris, okay, the iris is going to open and close according to what's going on with the light. So if the lights are dim, it's going to open up. Okay, and it may be noisy depending on how dim it is. Okay, depending on the kind of camera you have, how well it handles low light. If something bright happens, it's going to close down. Everything's going to kind of, so that it doesn't all go wah and get really bright on you. Okay, it's going to like close down, and it's going to go up. And as little things change, as the drummer hits the cymbals, and the cymbal flashes like that, the camera adjusts, and it's not consistent. Okay. Here's, let's see, I've got on this camera, I've got it set to manual so I can adjust it. There we go. Okay. So see, I've got it down really low. So everything's like really dim in here, except for the stuff in the back that's got the lights on it and stuff, okay? When you make it go up really high, it can be overexposed. I don't know if I can I can overexpose. Look at that. I'm all bright and everything's, kind of blown out and stuff like that. This can happen, but it looks like this when it's like automatic, okay? As lighting stuff is changing, the iris is doing this. Now you may think, I want it to automatically adjust because I don't have time to do it and stuff like that. Depending on what's going on in your service, depending on what the flow of your service is, you may need to make little adjustments here and there, okay? I have ours set on manual. We've actually got a little control on the handle that she can dial. So as it starts to go, as the lights start to go dim, she can actually turn it up a little bit so that the image is still visible. And if things get really bright or something, she can sort of turn it down. Gives her the ability that if the pastor is wearing, white pants, but like everybody else is wearing dark pants, it doesn't like, whoa, every time he gets, he hits it and the lights flash off of it and it looks, stuff like that. People with bright shirts versus dark shirts and the camera adjusts and all that. She can manually do that so that the viewer gets a consistent experience. Okay. Very important. Last thing in that little step 5 or tip 5, white balance. White balance, white balance, white balance. What is white balance? Basically, the camera, if it's set to automatically white balance, what it's going to do is it's going to look at everything in the image and it's going to say, what is the brightest, lightest thing? That must be white. Also, like the most dominant, okay? It's going to say, that must be white. I'm going to base all the other coloring off of what that is. Now, if you are outside and the lighting is consistent, or if you are inside and the lighting is consistent, then automatic white balance can be fine. Okay? If things change, the lights go dim, they change colors, they do this, these get really bright, these get really dim, there's washes across the stage, all that sort of stuff. The camera's trying to adjust, going, this must be what white is. Okay, this must be what the proper colors are and stuff. If you white balance manually, you tell it, this is white, then it can look much more consistent and not have fluctuations, okay? On your camcorders, you've got like white balance settings or lighting settings like tungsten or outside or shade or overcast. You've got these presets. Those are white balancing presets, okay? You've also got one that has that standard universal symbol that basically looks like two little like triangles with like a little dot or something in the middle. That is custom white balance. You can basically hold up a card like down on the stage, zoom the camera into it so that all you see is like the white of the card. Make sure the lights are up the way they're supposed to be for the service, okay? Then you can push that little button and, that card may look kind of yellow or kind of pink or something, maybe kind of blue or whatever. But when you push that little white balance and you say, this is white, then what happens is it adjusts. It goes, oh, this is white. And all of a sudden you'll see it looks natural and it looks white. It looks the way it's supposed to be. And then you zoom out like that. And all the colors look the way they're supposed to look, as opposed to having an orange cast or a blue cast or a pink cast or whatever. When it's white balanced, okay, you can then make little tweaks in between. I'll say you got 3 cameras and they're 3 different cameras. If all of them are white balanced on the same card under the same lighting conditions, and all those cameras know what white is in this atmosphere, okay, you can then go into each of those individually, like on a TriCaster or an OBS or in any of, whatever your live streaming software, your broadcast software is. You can then go in there and do your tweaking. Do I want to increase the saturation of the whole thing? Do I want to make the whole thing look a little warmer? So I'm going to add just a little more, of this color tint or this color tint and this color tint, so that they all kind of have this little bit of a warm look and stuff. Okay. You can do that when you have ground zero, when you have a base to go off of. Okay. That's what white balancing lets you do. It is the difference between, oh, look, they shot it with a video camera to, oh, wow, look, that's a great looking show I'm watching. Okay. It really does make a big difference. Hopefully, these tips, when you apply them, are going to make your stuff look a whole lot better. And the cool thing is that I think with the exception of like going out and buying a mixer and putting it in and getting all that sort of stuff set up, you can take all of these 5 tips and apply them like between now, which we're recording this on a Friday, and Sunday is the service. Like tonight and tomorrow, you could go to the church and make a few changes and get a much, much better looking live stream or recording of your service. So, guys, take this stuff that you've learned here, okay? Go out there, make things look better, and use it to change lives.